All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me, RAW BANDerson, here on the RAW BANDerson Show, week 2 of Foundational Healing. And thank you for being here with me, and I appreciate it. So today, it's funny because last week, I think I mentioned taking that first step in anything is really the challenging part. Especially if you're stuck in your mind, you're trying to figure everything out, and um, there's a saying, I don't know if it's a proverb or, just one of those meme things that always pops up, but you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to see the first step. And that's so true. I climbed a small mountain in Quebec with a couple friends last summer, and we got up at, I think, 3 in the morning, and we were at the base of the hill by 3:30. And we had to make it there by sunrise, and we went up the steepest part. We had a local guy who'd done it a few times come, and we literally had headlamps on, so we couldn't see anything because it was pitch black, and all you could see was a couple feet in front of you, and but we just had to have faith that the guy we're going with knew where he was going, and looking at the step ahead, the step ahead, the step ahead, and eventually we got there. Even though I stopped and puked once because we were moving quite quickly, we didn't stop for more than 10-second breaks. So I think we set a new world record getting to the top there. Even the locals were impressed. They're like, "Man, you guys hauled ass. You didn't even." So, but that's really what foundational healing is about. It's a step-by-step process. And for me, it was, I was on the fence, off the fence again. I'm going to do it. Oh, I don't know what to do. And as I mentioned last week, I'm not a fan of going back into the past because a lot of that time you can kind of reawaken things and open timelines, and then you're back in it. So it's kind of like a slippery slope, but I got to do it. I got to give back. I got to share the things that I've learned with people out there that might be going through things, that might have been in a similar position to me. Um, and, and, even if you're, especially the working out aspect of it, when I started really working out and committing to that, I was, I think, 32 years old. And so I had a lot of injuries from working out, trying to do P90X too soon and all this kind of stuff. So I'll get into those in later episodes. But today, I just wanted to focus on taking the first steps. So um, there's a lot about your healing journey, depending, how deep down the rat hole you are. Um, for myself, I called it climbing out of hell because about, 12 years ago, I literally found myself in hell. I think I mentioned on the first episode, looking in the mirror and stepping on the scale and not recognizing the person. And it was like, how did I get here? Um, and how do I get out of here? And so what I wanted to to talk about today was the full spectrum. And what does that mean? So if you've ever seen the full spectrum of natural light, actually the light in the corner, you probably can't tell on this video, is a full spectrum bulb. I think the only part of the spectrum it doesn't have is the UV, but I do have another black light. So I do have the full spectrum of light in this room right now. I bought a few years ago. We went 27 days out of 30, 1 month, 2 winters ago, I think it was, and not a ray of sunshine. So like the whole month, it was cloudy, and I was kind of getting like seasonal affective disorder, and I was like, I got to go do something. So I started looking into lighting and went and bought a full spectrum bulb and a black light as well, just to see if it worked. And you know what? Sometimes maybe it's the placebo effect, but it definitely brightened my day. Um, so where do you start? And I think that for myself, being overweight, drinking, smoking marijuana, doing other drugs, working a job that I didn't like, in a relationship that I knew wasn't going to work out, living arrangements that weren't going to work out. Like, in order to completely change your life, you have to completely change your life. And that's a daunting task. Where I am today, a decade or, just over a decade later, is absolutely leaps and bounds. I can't even tell you the ups and downs I've gone through during that time. Um, and so if I can hit anybody out there that, maybe is starting at a similar position that I was, and it doesn't have to take them 12 years, that's my goal with this, is to help people get through that and say, wow, like, learn from other people's mistakes, right? So, um, and there's a lot of stuff out there, like everybody's selling something. You got to just do this. You got to just start hitting the gym. You got to be this. You got to be that. And that's all fine and dandy, but you don't know what other people's stories are. You don't know where they're starting from. So when we compare ourselves to other people, it's just futile because you're going to just start, apples and oranges. There's an interesting thing called, and not everybody's the same. They don't have the same history. We're not built the same. We don't have the same genetics. We haven't gone through the same things, traumas, dramas, and all that jazz. There's a little, I guess it's like an antidote. Antidote? Is that the word? Not antidote. Anyways, so like a little parable thing called Animal School, and it talks about all the different animals trying to do a standardized test. So, a rabbit trying to fly like a bird, they're not going to be able to compete even in the same class. Squirrels and deer are not going to be able to compete in the same class. And that's what we have to realize, that everybody, each person is unique. I totally believe that when we're born, we're all infused and equal in spirit, but as we grow and we get conditioned into society, slowly but surely that gets whittled away. We have different body types, we have different genetics, we come from different backgrounds, different races, if you want to call that. And so everybody's got different things, and it's just so futile to compare yourself to other people. So, you might start working out and you've got I think there's three body types: phenotype, ectomorph, and mesomorph. Pardon me if those aren't correct. I'm not a body expert by any means. But you can just tell there's people that are short and stocky. I'm tall and thin. And so to want to look like a guy who's 5'8", and built like a fridge, it's not possible for me. I'm just not built like that. I can take all these types of supplements, and sure, I could probably gain weight and all this stuff, but like, don't compare yourself to people that aren't even the same body type as you. It's just ridiculous, right? And don't um, and you know what? You don't even know if those people are real humans. They might be aliens or clones or some sort of fabricated life form that you're comparing yourself to. You don't even know what their inner body looks like. It's like, to me, it's crazy. So where do I start? And pardon me if I'm looking at this page because I wrote down a few things, and I took off my glasses because I find they were kind of reflecting the lights that I have in here. So I want to get back. I do tend to get sidetracked, so I'll try to reel it back in. But I wanted to discuss how going from where I was and all those things I just explained, that makes healing really complicated. So not only, um, our body types and the things that we've experienced, but also our history, but not only just the history that we've experienced, our parental history, so our racial and cultural history and societal history and country history and all that stuff. So there's things in our DNA. Our DNA is like a recording system. There's things in there from our ancestors that we have no idea about. And so that's something that I didn't learn on my healing journey probably till 2, 3 years ago, when I really started understanding some of these things, because I kind of hit a plateau and a roadblock. Um, and it felt like I was in quicksand. Like, the more I was trying to do, the quicker I sunk, right? So back to the full spectrum of light. Um, our eyes, most human eyes, the average human, I know that there are some people that can see auras. And so I've heard of people that can see the full spectrum of light, which is interesting. But you don't really know what other people see. So, and we only see what we see. But given the average human, the full spectrum of light on the visible scale of light that we see is very, very minute. So if you haven't looked up the full spectrum of visible light that we can see, the average person can see, compared to what's really out there, the whole spectrum, the full spectrum versus what we see, check it out because it's very interesting. So there's stuff in and around us: light waves, sound waves, radio waves, all those different types of things. There's energies and entities and things that we have nothing about, or can't see and know nothing about. So that's another thing to me um, that makes healing complicated. And that's something that another thing that didn't even come onto my radar till about 2 or 3 years ago. So those are things so there's a lot of things you don't know what you don't know. And so starting your journey today, whatever it is just taking the first step. It's saying, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And what does that look like for you? You don't have to blow your whole life up and make this drastic change, but you have to start saying, I read a book called Vadim Zealand. It's called reality transurfing. And so wherever you are today, if it's not to your liking, draw or visualize an image of what you want your life to be like in, say, 5 years. And he calls it, I think, slides. And it's like a picture. People could call it a vision board if you want this, that. It doesn't really have to be, but maybe it's you sitting on the beach. You've lost 100 pounds, you have a new job, maybe you have a dog, maybe it's in a different city, whatever it is, just keep that image. It doesn't have to be a real thing. You don't have to make a vision board. You just have this mental projection, a slide, like, if on the old film reels that movies came in, you remember if you're my age, if you're in your 40s or in and around that age or older, back when we were in school, today's kids probably haven't seen too many of them, although maybe they have a few kicking around, but they used to have slide projectors. So it was one frame and 24 frames would make up a movie slide, so 24 frames in a second. But you just want one frame and work towards that. And so rather than making this big thing, like put that frame, and as I mentioned, taking the first step, going up your mountain, with that frame, say that's your mountaintop. And you're reeling. So as you're walking up the mountain or reeling in that slide, I like the visualization of that slide's out there. You cast a line and you're reeling it in slowly, 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 but surely. It's on there. It's not going to get away. You just got to take your time and be patient and reel it in. And eventually you're going to get to that slide the same way. Eventually you're going to get to the mountaintop one step at a time, even if you have to stop and puke, even if the lamp on your head goes out and you can't see the next staircase, just wait till the light comes. And sometimes you have to turn around and go back. And that's okay. Maybe it wasn't for you. Maybe you went down a direction. I'm learning to fly, and I really like. So I'm going to continue, in my journey and doing these shows. I'll probably start supplementing in things involved with aviation, because what was really interesting about aviation that I found is it very closely parallels my healing journey and learning to fly. There's so much that you need to know in order to learn how to actually get in a cockpit, start up a plane, and take off by yourself. Like, it's hours and hours and hours of training and studying and learning weather patterns and the rules and regulations, all this stuff. But it's a step-by-step process, right? And so the journey to get there is it's a long one. And so it's just little drops in the bucket each day, and just know. So that's another thing that I want to say, is that wherever you are today, just don't beat yourself up. That's the hardest thing. And for myself, it continued to happen over the years. It continued to happen because as you make changes in your life, as I said before, in order to completely change your life, you're going to have to completely change your life. And there's going to be a lot of things, friends, family, institutions, jobs, whatever it is, all kinds of things. You're reeling in your new future, and your old life's trying to reel you back in, because the mind hates change. The mind likes everything the way it is. So your friends, your family, they have this vision of you. Oh, that's just, Rob or Teddy or whatever, Billy or Shauna or whoever. Whatever personality, the false personality that you've created or developed over all these years, that's who they think you are, and it's not. And that's what I'm here to do. This show's not about me. It's about you and the raw band I mentioned in the first episode, finding your true unique frequency, your original spiritual identity, who you are before all this crap was poured on top of it, all these addictions, all these whatever you have. And maybe your situation's not as bad as mine was. Maybe it's worse. I know I've had a lot of friends I've lost over the years to suicide and overdose and just death, because they lost hope. They couldn't recover. And I'm so grateful to be sitting here with you guys today to even deliver this message. And that's why, last week when I decided, that was one of my seeds of intention for this year, not resolutions, just a seed of intention, just to show up. I didn't say I'm going to do, make these grand claims. I'm just going to do one a week. And it was scary taking that first step. But as soon as I did, I was like, wow, I did it. And then, I had all these ideas for the next episode, this episode. Where am I going to start? Oh, should I start here? Maybe I should start on my birth and start there and go forward. Like, how did I get here? And we'll get to all that. Because a lot of times with addictions and trauma and things that we went through in childhood, we don't know what we don't know. And oh, geez, that light's flashing on me. So we don't know what we don't know. So things are going to uncover. Maybe we're going to, on your healing journey, you're going to uncover other crap, and then you're going to have, it's like you go off on the side and you have to deal with something as well. So don't beat yourself up. Wherever you are today, that's where you're starting. You're starting, and you're taking one step. So just start doing little things that you love. And on the beginning of my healing journey, it was to make the decision that, I have to move. This girl that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, we weren't engaged, but I bought her a promise ring, and she was supposed to move in with me at the time. We lived 5.5 hours away from each other. So it was a very long distance relationship. She was supposed to move to the city that I was in, and I was a mess. I'm very grateful that she loved me because I didn't love me. And so, but I knew that it wasn't going to work out between us. And I didn't even have the courage to break it off myself with her. It just, things got so out of hand that like, I was just so tough to deal with that she broke up with me. And it was like, I look back and that was really tough because she was such a sweet woman. And it's like, I didn't even have the courage to say, I can't do this because I didn't have integrity. I didn't know who I was. I probably had so many entities living in me, so many, like just so much crap piled on me. And I didn't know where to start. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know even that I needed help really in some ways. But I knew I was dying. Like I knew that inside, like your spirit knows, your body knows, like you can't go on like this. And you can hide it to other people, but you can't hide yourself. You can't hide it from yourself. And so starting where you are today, that's just today is where you are. Don't create too much of a story around it. Don't beat yourself up. We're learning to drop the past, but wherever you are today, taking the first steps, and it's okay. So, getting to the root cause is what this show is all about. And you probably don't even know the root cause of a lot of this stuff because how would you? Nobody's taught it to you. Um, and so, uh, as I mentioned, the full spectrum. One thing I do want to mention is that there's forces, you want to call them evil or entities or whatever. Emotion. Eckhart Tolle, if you've ever read his stuff or heard his work, he calls them pain bodies. Other people call them emotional bodies. Some people call them ghosts, and Eckhart kind of refers to them as quasi psychic entities, but they come into you. And there's an interesting book, interesting. Story that he tells in his book, A New Earth, about a client coming to his office and just being in a rage and all this stuff in the pain body, which we can't see. Essentially left this lady and followed him. And when he went to a restaurant after, there was this big scene in the restaurant, and it's like this pain body, which is an entity that we can't see, parasitic life form almost, latched onto somebody who didn't have a lot of spiritual integrity, and it caused them it feeds off your emotions, off your pain, off your traumas. It can get energy from you, and it knows this. So that's really about what this workshop, this foundational healing workshop is bringing back your spiritual integrity. And when I started the healing journey, I really didn't know much about spirituality. I knew that I called it the universe. I believed that there was some force that was animating us, but I didn't really know much about what our spirit is and what it is that animates our body. And so, when you're drinking all the time, eating poor foods, have maybe toxic relationships, a job that you hate, a long commute, and this whole like pancake stack in front of you that you've been eating of stuff, you have no idea where to start, and you have no idea that all those things are taking you away from your true divinity, your true spiritual essence of who you are. And so it's like my friend wrote a book called The Diamond Heart, and it's like we've got this, we are a diamond. We're like this pure, beautiful, divine essence, but it's covered in mud. And so a lot of us, even some of the people that maybe they don't have all these addictions and stuff, but they're almost the worst drug that they're on is the false reality that they believe is real that's been forced upon them. And that's the tough part of the journey for a lot of people, is saying that, like, everything I know is like there's something wrong here. Like, and being able to come to that conclusion and say, I got to figure out and I got to start my own journey because maybe you're stuck in a family system or society or a job and it's not quite working for you, and there's not people that understand where you are spiritually, or that you know that you have to kind of go on this journey, and it's really a journey within. But we've spent so much time, lifetimes probably, not just this one, looking to the outside for our sources of sustenance and guidance, and it's all inside of us. It's all inside of us, and not here. It's right here. And a few days ago, I did a short on the mind to heart drop from Ron Amatron. And if you haven't seen it, I'll post the link below in this video, because the mind to heart drop is a very, very powerful tool. And so if we have one takeaway for today, it's to just say, you know what, the past is the past, and set that future, that slide, um, and start reeling your future, and just take it one step at a time. And I don't know what next week's going to be, because I'm focused on just getting through this episode. So I'm going to work through things. If you guys have questions, comments, or things that you might want me to touch on in the upcoming episode, please let me know, because I want to co-create. I was actually thinking of doing live shows where people could do answers and stuff like, or questions come in. And so that way it's kind of co-creative, because I do really love working with people as well. But so today, the one takeaway is that you have to understand that you're a divine spirit, and you've probably kicked most of your spirit out of your body. When you come in as a child, you're 100%, you're pure, you're just glowing, you have all this radiant energy. And then now we're just a shell of our former beautiful radiant selves. But this, my commitment to helping other people, and to helping myself, and to helping all of us, and to helping this world, is the foundational healing, one step at a time, one breath at a time, one day at a time, one decision at a time. And so just start doing things you love. Instead of turning on the TV tonight, just, you know what, maybe sit down saying, you know what, I've always wanted to learn to play the piano. So watch a YouTube video on learn to play the piano, go to the library, just start doing things that you love, one little thing at a time. Because if you don't have if you don't have that foundation of the things that you love, you're going to start doing things and looking for escaping. And that's where drugs and alcohol and addictions come in, and they come in a lot of forms. Food, there's a lot of ways to escape. Even overworking, people like talking about hustle and doing all that stuff. That's an escape too, because you're not disconnected with the true reality of what Earth and this beautiful place is. You're in this ego-driven mind, and that's a tough thing to get through too. So today, start with doing things you love, doing the mind to heart drop, and I'll do it with you right now, because that's a great place to start. So start connecting, and don't think the answers, feel them from within. Like, what do you really want to do? There's a saying, like, your best thinking got you here. And so if you're in a shitty place and you're starting here, it's time to stop thinking and start feeling, and start living from the heart, and so that's where there's that disconnect. I really like Osho, and a lot of the stuff, things he's like, I'm not asking you to take a big journey. He says, it's just a few inches. It's just a few inches from your mind down into your heart. So doing the mind to heart drop, which I said I mentioned earlier, and I'll share the video, but I'll do it here again. So what you want to do is you want to command your spirit and your awakening consciousness from your mind down into your heart. So I now command my spirit to take the thoughts from my head and drop them down into my heart. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And a huge out breath. Keep letting it out. You'd be surprised. Look at, you'd be surprised. Push your diaphragm out, and you'd be surprised how much stagnant energy, air that we have in our lungs, how much shallow our breathing. I'm going to do another episode on Wim Hof breathing. Maybe that'll be the next episode. And so this whole healing journey for me was not linear. So I don't have a linear process that I'm going to be doing. The healing program is individual to each person, and you have to do it. You have to learn to follow your heart. And I wasn't taught that 12 years ago. I started following other people, and maybe there's no recipe for your healing journey. And so trying to follow somebody else's recipe like somebody's baking brownies and you need to be making, pineapple upside down cake. So try my I guess message to you is to trust your inner guidance. And I heard recently, and it stuck with me, is beautiful. We have to redefine our definition of faith because God isn't outside of us. God is within us, source, creation. Our life force is animating us out into the world, not the other way around. So, and we live in an inverted world. I don't want to get too deep onto that right now, but um, we are, so we have to redefine faith, not in a power higher than us, but in our own spiritual integrity. So faith has to be redefined that I have faith in my spirit and I have faith and confidence in my next decision. And so you have to start trusting yourself. You have to start trusting your spirit and your own inner guidance. And so doing that mind to heart drop, do the mind to heart drop before you make decisions. Write it down on a piece of paper. Do the mind to heart drop and say, Spirit, what do I want to do next? What's my next step? Please, and figure it out and listen. And often, it's our mind will be like, wow, maybe I got to do this and maybe I should go do that. And so much of that is ego driven. And like I said, maybe it's just doing something simple. Maybe it's calling up an old friend saying sorry. Maybe it's playing the piano. Maybe it's, saying, maybe it's throwing out your pack of cigarettes. There's so many things. It's unique to you. And so have faith in yourself and just start doing little things you love and start being heart-centered and loving yourself, because wherever you are, if you're watching this video and you think you need foundational healing, I'm going to tell you, you got to this place by not loving yourself. So the only goal I have for you is for you to discover yourself, your true inner raw frequency, your divine blueprint, your raw band, your raw frequency band, who you truly are, who you truly came to earth to be. And that's just creative. I don't necessarily believe in destiny. We have things that we want to create and want to do, and a lot of that is ego driven. But I think that there's a unique divine spiritual blueprint inside of all of us, and it's like deep inside of a statue, and we got to like take the chisel and piece by piece, very delicately, because there's something very fragile underneath there and beautiful. So we got to chip away the stone very gently and get to that unique frequency, who you are underneath. And so, it might take you a year. Hopefully it doesn't take you 12, 13 years, but life is a dance, and so there's no real finish line. And so it's just one step at a time, one breath at a time, one decision at a time. So do the mind to heart drop, have faith in your spirit, call your spirit back to me saying, Spirit, what do you want to do? Start speaking out loud to yourself. Start saying, body, I'm sorry. I love you. I'm sorry for the drama, trauma, and all the stress and hell I put you through. I didn't know I was stuck in darkness, but you found the light, and it's time to rekindle that flame and fan the embers, and we're going to get that shit burning brightly. So thank you guys all for tuning in to week 2 of foundational healing. I don't know what week 3 has yet. So if you have any suggestions or questions, I'd really love to answer questions. That would be awesome. And if you gain value, drop a comment, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Maybe, I'm not for everybody. That's okay. Like I mentioned before, but maybe you have somebody in your life that, is from a similar age bracket or upbringing that I am, that you think might resonate. Hey, you might like this Rob guy, and he's going through or went through some of the same things that you're going through. So please share. That's the only way that we can all come together and really bring the light back to this planet, is to help each other. And there's another interesting story. I think it was a story from Buddha, or a quote. It says that, lighting someone else's flame in no way diminishes our own. So, you can take a candle and you can light 1,000 candles with that candle, and the candle you're holding doesn't burn any quicker. So you don't want to give your light away to people, but you can definitely help, fan their flames and ignite their flame if it's flickering out, right? So thank you guys so much for joining me, and yeah, that's all for me for today. And I really appreciate you sharing this time and space with me, and I look forward to catching up with you next week. And in the meantime, make sure you do that mind to heart drop and do your best to be heart centered and living in peace. I love you guys, and thanks a lot.